What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Happy New Year, and welcome to a Philadelphia Eagles-based video. I'm recording this right after the clock struck midnight, so I don't know when this video is getting uploaded, but I'm in clear mind right now. It is time to do a recap of the Philadelphia Eagles season right before our playoff push, which I hope to God isn't one and done, but I'm a realist, and Nick Foles is looking not great. So I figure let's think back, let's look back to when Carson Wentz was our starting quarterback. At times were great. But yeah, I released back in the very beginning of August my predictions for the Philadelphia Eagles season. I went by every single game to get a final record prediction. I went through some bold stat predictions, which we will compare what actually happened with what I thought would happen. And I also gave some awards out. I gave an MVP, a bust, and a sleeper. So we'll talk about all these things, and then we'll wrap up kind of with maybe, you know, some takeaways from the season. So the first time I'm re-recording this because the first time I did it, it was like 17 minutes, and that's too damn long. So looking at the record prediction, I will go through it by what I originally said back in August and what actually happened. And I found out I knew who we were going to lose to all along, I guess. So first of all, Week 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. We finished 13-3, which is spectacular. Would have been nice to go 14-2 and beat the Cowboys, but, you know, that was not happening. But so way back in September, week number 1, we played the Washington Redskins. I said we were going to win that game, and win that game we did. Big talking point. Remember, maybe I'll throw back some memory lanes from these games. I have nothing written down, so let's see how well my memory is working. The big takeaway from the Redskins game, obviously there was a Fletcher Cox forced fumble to seal it, which was a little bit debatable, but the big one was on the opening drive, Carson Wentz being a Houdini and finding Nelson Aguilar for a 30, 40, 50-yard touchdown. But the biggest talking point from that was obviously Carson Wentz's insane pocket awareness to be able to scramble and extend the play. And I said we're going to win that game, and we did. So we're 1-0. And then in week 2 against Kansas City, I said we were going to lose that game, and we did in fact lose that game. We're sitting at 2-0 for my predictions. I wasn't happy because we're 1-1. Thinking back to that Kansas City Chiefs game, that was Doug Peterson abandoning the run and having Carson Wentz throw it way too much, and we still only end up losing by a touchdown. And if you found, that if Doug Peterson would have stuck to the game plan that he used for pretty much the remainder of the season, we might have won that game because we had a lot of balance to the running attack pretty much every week after that. And it was a lesson. It was a lesson learned that we need to keep balance to this offense, which should be well known. But I guess Doug Peterson was a little bit slower than us. So that was the Chiefs game. Then in week 3, I had us beating the Giants, and we actually did beat the Giants. That was a 61-yard field goal from Jake Elliott. That was a horrible performance from the Philadelphia Eagles. The second half was absolutely disgusting. They let Odell Beckham Jr. take over. They let Eli Manning throw slant after slant after slant after slant. And I was frustrated. I had a family dinner, so I literally stopped watching the game from, I think I turned it off at the very beginning of the fourth quarter, and I was able, by Twitter, I was like, I ate my supper real quick and turned it right on, like the play or two where Carson Wentz hit Alshon Jeffrey to get in field goal range, and then Jake Elliott kicked the 61-yard. That's probably been debatably the best moment of the season, I would say, for an Eagle fan. But all in all, we were all good on that. I said they'd win. They brought the victory home. Week 4 against the Chargers, I actually predicted we were going to lose that game, and we did win that game against the Chargers. Again, another close-fought battle. The real big talking point I remember was that it felt like a home game for the Philadelphia Eagles. They traveled incredibly well, or more so the Charger fans don't care that the Chargers are there. But that was a close game. We were able to edge that one out. I think LeGarrette Blount had a really big game there. Then in week number 5 against the Cardinals, I actually said we're going to lose that game. I thought that the Larry Fitzgerald curse was going to continue, but we were able to win that game, and it was really dominant. I remember that might have been debatably like the most complete game, probably along with the Denver Broncos game, which we'll talk about a little bit, that we played all season long. That was a dominant performance from the Philadelphia Eagles, and we shut down Larry Fitzgerald. So that was awesome. Week number 6 against the Carolina Panthers, I said we would win that game, and we actually did win that game. And that was probably the best win we had all season, I think, because it was on primetime, and the refs were absolutely horrible. The refs were just raw dogging the Philadelphia Eagles, giving every single call to the Carolina Panthers and blowing every call that we could possibly have against us, and we were able to come away with the victory. Those are the games for, I don't know, 15 years that I've been an Eagles fan, thereabouts, that we always lose those games, but somehow we were able to prevail. And that's kind of, at this point, once we got this win over Carolina, once we're sitting, what were we, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've been 5-1 after this one. I actually felt the season was going to be special. So that was an awesome game. The week 7, we played the Washington Redskins. That was another victory. I'm not going to lie, I don't really remember a single thing from that, aside from, remember Kirk Cousins had some success scrambling, like on QB keepers for some reason. But we were able to win that game. I'm pretty sure it was pretty comfortable. Then week number 8, we had the 49ers. I said we're going to win that game, and we did win it. It was a little bit closer than you would figure. The weather conditions weren't that great. The Niners showed that they're not a pushover team, even though I don't think they had a single, well, obviously they didn't have a single win at that point. It was before the Jimmy G trade, but that was still a very nice victory. Week 9 against Denver, I said we're going to lose that game for some reason. I don't know why, and that was probably the best performance we put up all season. Going into that game, the Denver Broncos were the #1 defense in the NFL, and Philly went, psych, we're going to drop 53 points on them. That was an excellent, excellent game. Week 10 against Dallas, I said we're going to lose that game. Coming off to the bye, what we knew about Doug Peterson's teams from the very, very small sample size, but they always came out flat after the bye week. And they did. The first half against that Dallas game was horrific, but in the second half, Dallas showed that they're not that good this year. They didn't have Ezekiel Elliott, and then Philly took over, and we actually won that one. So I was incorrect. 2 back weeks. I had no faith in the Eagles week 9 and week 10 way back in August, but they were able to pull through and get 2 dubs. Then we had week 11 against the Bears. I said that was going to be a win. It was a win. I remember that game was incredibly sloppy, and if we played probably any other team, we would have lost. There was like 4 fumbles. Everything went against us, but we had Carson Wentz, so we were able to win that game. Week 12 against Seattle, I said that was going to be a loss, so it was a loss. So I called 2 of our losses in the season. I know maybe I just have a gut feeling. I've been an Eagle fan for far too long. I understand that when we go and travel to a hostile environment, a team that's very good at home, like Kansas City, like Seattle, it usually is a loss. And that was probably the worst game we had all year, which was unfortunate because we had so many opportunities to win. And seeing how the Seattle Seahawks closed out the season after that game, it is kind of frustrating not being able to pick up that win because they struggled against, the Niners, the Jags, stuff like that. But that was an L. And the forward pass by Russell Wilson, that was not a, that was illegal. All right, then week 13. I'm probably already messing up these weeks because the bye. I didn't count the bye week. So then our next game against the Rams, that was a victory, but that's a game we're not going to talk about because that's the game Carson Wentz went with the ACL. We still were able to persevere, get the victory, but we're not going to bring that up anymore. Then we played the Giants. I said that was going to be a win. It was a win. We shut out the Giants. Wasn't a pretty win. Was very, very ugly with Nick Foles at the helm. He threw 4 touchdowns. The defense was terrible, but we got that dub. Then we played the Raiders, and we beat them. I said we're going to beat them, which is nice. That was an ugly game as well. And then finally, I actually said we're going to beat Dallas week 17, but I didn't foresee the Philadelphia Eagles being as good as they were. So I thought at this point this game would be meaningful. It wouldn't be, Dallas Cowboy and all their starters going against Philadelphia Eagles second and third stringers. So we flipped where I was wrong about the week 10 game against Dallas, the game after the bye where I said they'd lose. Flip that with, I basically called our 3 losses. I said we'd lose once to Dallas, we'd lose to Seattle, we'd lose to Kansas City. At least I had that right, that's something to hang my hat on. But other than that, man, I'm, for the record standpoint, very satisfied with 13-3. I think a lot of us fans should be. And at least we now know, you don't want to already just kind of pass over the playoffs. We still have a chance. Everything has to come through, the link. Terrible weather. Our defense is playing well. But, worst case scenario, it's not going to be the last time we're going to be in this position. Carson Wentz is a superstar. He is going to get back to 100%, and he is going to lead this team to many more playoff pushes. I'm not gonna say the big. We're gonna win a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz, but we're gonna be a very competitive team for the next decade, which is a good thing. So now let's talk about some stat predictions. This is where a lot of numbers are gonna be flying at you. I'll try to keep it simple. So I said for Carson Wentz at the beginning of the year, he would finish with 4,100 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 11 TDs. What he actually finished with was 3,300 passing yards, so I was off on that, but 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. If Carson Wentz would have finished the season out, he would have been the MVP. There's no ifs and buts about it. He was the most valuable player. He was the most exciting player in the league, and I'm glad that I was wrong on that one. For LeGarrette Blount, I predicted 750 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. He finished with 766. How close is that? 16 yards. Within 16 yards. What a prediction. And 3 touchdowns. For Alshon Jeffrey, I said 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl. He got 790 yards, 9 TDs. Again, it's tough to really judge this one because if Carson Wentz played those final 3 games, Alshon probably would have been a little bit closer to that. But, I was wrong with the touchdowns. We undersold him there. But you never know. Like I said, if Carson was still firing all cylinders, Alshon might have had a chance to be one of the Pro Bowls. I don't know if he's a Pro Bowl alternate or not. He might eventually make the Pro Bowl, so that looked like a correct pick there. For Zach Ertz, I said 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl, and he finished with 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl. So I guess I called and foreseen Zach Ertz's finally breakout season, which is very nice. For Brandon Graham, I said 9 sacks. He finished with 9.5. Oh, close on that one. Vinny Curry, I said 5 sacks. He finished with 3. Chris Long, I said he'd finish with 3 sacks. He finished with 5. So we'll just, move those numbers a little bit. Any of you guys out there in accounting, you know what I'm going on about. I was a little bit off on Fletcher Cox. I said Fletcher Cox would finish with 10 sacks and a Pro Bowl, but he finished with 5.5 and a Pro Bowl. So, we'll take the even. We'll split that one. I said Jalen Mills would finish with 1 interception. He finished with 3. I said Roddy McLeod would finish with 1 interception. He finished with 3. I said Malcolm Jenkins would finish with 3 interceptions, and he finished with 2. So I undersold the secondary a little bit, but don't let it get twisted. Those 3 picks from Mills aren't really indicative of his play, especially in the second half of the season. And then I just straight out came and say rookies, trying to guess what our rookies were going to do. I said Derek Burnett would finish with 7 sacks. He finished with 5, so roughly in that ballpark. I said Sidney Jones would play the final 4 games and get 1 interception. He only played the final game, didn't get a single pick, but he had a very solid game. For Rasul Douglas, I said he'd get 2 interceptions, and he actually got 2 picks. And, cherry on the top, I actually had Rasul Douglas in my final Eagles mock draft as a draft pick. So, hey, I'm on the Rasul Douglas hype train. We're connected. And I also had Mack Hollins finishing with 200 yards on the season, and he finished with 220 and 1 touchdown. So that's close enough to give me the big ol' victory. So, I felt pretty good with my stat predictions, and the only real one that I was way off on was probably Carson Wentz, 26-11, and he finished 33-7. So I'm glad I was wrong on that. And then I ultimately gave the MVP award to Carson Wentz for this team, and looking back, he is clearly MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles. For the sleeper, I said Timmy Jernigan, and Timmy Jernigan was very good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Good enough that he got a brand new big fat contract extension. So I think put the little check mark next to that one too. And for bust, I went with Jalen Mills, and that's a tough one. I personally think he did bust a little bit this season, just because the bust tag was put on him because so many people thought he established himself as a legitimate corner, a legitimate starting corner for the Philadelphia Eagles, the next Lito Shepherd or something like that. And all he did to me was he played good in the beginning of the season, and then when Ronald Darby came back, and it seemed like Jim Schwartz kind of, put the onus on the corners. He started using the safety and the blitzes so he wouldn't have help over the top. Jalen Mills got exposed. So Jalen Mills, to me, proved that he is going to be maybe the successor to either Roddy McLeod or Malcolm Jenkins, whichever one of those guys leaves first. So by that standpoint, he is a bust in terms of being our future corner. So I don't know, I'd say maybe we split even on that one. So then looking at the remainder of the stats and kind of reflecting on the season, because we did this way before, Corey Clement exploded for 6 touchdowns on the season. Are you kidding me? Undrafted free agent. I said during the preseason I wasn't a huge fan, and then I became a fan after seeing him work in the preseason. I called him a mini Arian Foster, and looking forward, him and the running back we traded a 4th-round pick for, Jay Ajayi, who finished the season with 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement, I'm excited to see what that backfield is. We don't know what's going to go on with Darren Sproles next season, if he's going to return or not. But honestly, I think I'm excited. Corey Clement and Jay Ajayi, if that's who our running backs are next year, that is going to be a very difficult running back tandem to stop. And obviously, you want now the comparisons. Can we get the next Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara? I think that Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement can certainly get near that. I don't think there's going to be another Ingram and Kamara. Those guys put up like 3,000 total yards and like 20 touchdowns, 25 touchdowns, something crazy like that. But we can get similar production and utilize both these backs the same way that the Saints did. That's going to be a problem. Torrey Smith didn't really do much. 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's going to be gone. We're going to free up some cap space. Trey Burton had 5 touchdowns on the year. Good to see that. He's probably going to cash out and go somewhere in free agency, which sucks. Nelson Aguilar, the surprise of the season. 59 catches, 750 yards, 8 TDs. I love to see that for Nelson Aguilar. He found his role in the slot, which is good. So now Philadelphia has to decide, are we going to go out and draft a wide receiver? We're going to try to sign a wide receiver, or we're going to make Mack Hollins the other outside guy, so that our wide receiver core next year will be Aguilar in the slot, Alshon on one side, and Mack Hollins on the other. That's interesting. Those are definitely confident weapons that I would say Carson Wentz could still succeed with. Looking at the defense. Oh, here's another crazy one. I didn't even say that for the predictions. I said Nigel Bradham would finish with 85 tackles. He finished with 88. Shot in the dark. Came up. That was awesome. But looking at the defense, Patrick Robinson, everybody, was like Pro Football Focus darling. I think he finished as a top 5 corner. Finished with 4 interceptions on the year, a sack, almost 50 tackles. Very surprising. I love seeing that. Ronald Darby came as a trade before even after this prediction video. He finished 7 starts. He had 3 interceptions, 8 pass deflections, 34 tackles. If he's used correctly, he is a very good corner. But when they put him you know, in zones and put him and try to, like, when he's a press. Well, I'm pretty sure when they said he was in press coverage, he was like one of the top corners in the NFL. So we don't know what's happening with Jim Swartz, if he's going to leave or not. But if he does, in fact, leave, maybe we'll get someone in here that can utilize our players better than that. Corey Graham, you know, 2 interceptions, special team type kind of guy. That was awesome to see. Obviously, we had a lot of injuries along the way. We lost on Jordan Hicks, which sucked. We lost out on, I think, who was it? Jordan Hicks got hurt. I'm pretty sure, well, it was Darby. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Darby twisted, like, shattered his ankle, somehow came back. But I mean, Chris Long, another surprising guy. 4 forced fumbles, 5 sacks on the season. Vinny Curry graded out incredibly well against the run and finished with 3 sacks. Kind of, you know, obviously he has a kind of fat contract that you're like, you know, he's probably overpaid. He might not return next year. Vinny Curry played very, very well. I think Vinny Curry had an excellent season. Michael Kendricks emerged. Michael Kendricks had an insane preseason, and that form pretty much carried over into the regular season. Finished with almost 70-some tackles, 2 sacks, 6 pass deflections. That's a service for Michael Kendricks. I'm glad we did not trade him. I was on the whole bandwagon not to trade Michael Kendricks and not to trade Jason Kelce. I thought those guys were solid. Maybe Michael Kendricks could be expendable, but I didn't never want to get rid of Jason Kelce. And really, until Nick Foles came in, Jason Kelce and Carson Wentz, Kelce was like the top center in the NFL. He's like regarded around the league, if you're a diehard football fan, as one of the biggest snubs for the Pro Bowl. So an excellent, you know, turnaround comeback season from him, which is good, man, because we have a lot of money invested in these guys, and these are guys that their contracts just, you can't, like, at a whim get rid of them, you know what I'm saying? So you have to make do, and luckily they're starting to pan out. Oh my god, I forgot Patrick Robinson, 4 picks, 17 pass deflections. Are you kidding me? Beast, Patrick Robinson. Hope he comes back. I don't know if he's going to cash out or what. I don't know if he's going to just be, you know, wanting to come back and stay in the scheme. I don't know. But ultimately, Jake Elliott. I guess we'll finish with Jake Elliott for the last over. Phenomenal. Missed, I think he made 85% of his field goals, 92% of his extra points, but the 61-yarder, he's automatic from everything after 50. It's insane. He's an absolute monster, man. I think Jake Elliott, we might have a kicking competition. I'd say because he's so shaky at short ranges, maybe there will be a chance for Caleb Sturgis to regain his job next season. But Jake Elliott was another surprise. Lots of surprises. We had lots of injuries to deal with. Obviously, Jason Peters, Jordan Hicks, Darren Sproles, Ronald Darby going down, Sidney Jones. We knew what that was when we drafted him. And of course, Carson Wentz. But this has been a team that's endured. And looking back, finishing out this recap video, I'm still very, very excited for next week's matchup. Well, I don't know if it's next week, but it's on Saturday. I think it's at the 4 or 5 p.m., depending on where you live. So I'm very excited to see that. We're either going to play the Falcons, Saints, or Panthers. So, hey, I think, as long as it's not the Saints are the only team, even with Carson Wentz, I didn't want this Eagles team to play. And if we have to go up against the Saints with Nick Foles playing the way he is, that could be a rough one. But hey, we're in the playoffs. Everyone else in the NFC is sitting on their couch watching us. So let's see what can happen there. That does it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, it's C4 saying peace